Hey, what's up? Just starting. Just was actually working on this for a little while, but I figured I might as well stream it because, you know, why not? So basically what I did so far was I just tore apart a second long shot front gun and sort of cut it down to what I needed. I cut the top rail, that was basically that, into two sections so I can sort of continue the top rail all the way to the back of the blaster. One of the things I kind of wanted to do was put it like that, so that way the, whatever you want to call this, extrusion lines up, but then the screws would be on both sides of the blaster, and that's kind of annoying. So I figured I'll just keep it like this, and we can work with that. So that's sort of where I'm at right now. Debating what I want to do for the back stock area back here, and then the grip. I might actually use the bottom half of the long shot front gun since I have two of those. It's about the same thickness as the top one, so it might work out pretty well. And then I got my stock section from the Praxis, so gotta figure out how to put that on there too. But for right now, what I'm gonna do is start fitting up that top rail. This is still all hot glued together, so none of it's like final. But I want to get a good idea of what the lines I'm going for are before I take it back apart and do some prep work. Like some of the areas have to be filled with epoxy sculpts before I even glue the shell together. Like that has to be filled before I glue that on. Stuff like that. So I figured I want to figure out approximately what I need to do first, which means getting all the pieces sort of where I want them to. Okay, so I think I'm going to take off this ridge right here. And then we're going to take off this ridge up here to about that height. So we'll start with about that height. Then if we need to do more cutting, we can do that. So that will get us a good starting point. So we need to Dremel out that and the top section. So I'm going to do that real quick. So Dremel warning real quick. Actually, I should probably take the mic off when I do Dremeling, because otherwise it's going to be really loud for you guys. Okay, that's hopefully enough for right now, at least, so we can get started. So that's basically flat now. The flex shaft, I think, was a pretty good purchase for the Dremel. Makes it so much easier to use. I'm kind of glad I purchased that. So we got rid of those ridges. Seems like there's still something holding this piece in. So, oh, it's probably the screw port. I mean, I was going to lose that screw port anyway, so that's not a big deal. But whatever. Just have to grind down the top of it. Actually, I could probably just cut the whole thing out right now because I don't really need it. Like I said, it's going to get covered anyway, so it's not particularly useful. Actually, we might be able to get away with just using this, which is fine for now. Like I said, this is all pretty rough work that we're doing. Let's see. Grab the X-Acto knife, clean that up real quick. Yes, usually. I'm going back to school in August, and then I'll be in the Rochester area. So in about like whatever 3 or so weeks, we'll be back to Rochester for pretty much the next year till the spring. Oh, nice. Nice. I've played in that area before. Yeah, it's not too bad. So I was going to say, if you get the chance to come up for like, trying to think of some of the games around there. Towards Syracuse, I believe there's the RIT game, or at least invitational-wise for HPZ. There's the RIT one, I think Lemoyne is close to there, and there's like 1 or 2 others. Depending on how far you want to drive, but those ones are pretty, I believe, are the 2 closest. I need to get rid of those screws. I'm going to grab sandpaper real quick. That doesn't count. It's like 600 grit. I need something a little more. Let's see. Oops. Clean this up a little bit, and then we can start working on drill on. I think I'm gonna have to switch Dremel bits real quick and grind it down a little more. Like I said, we don't have to get too precise because it's like a rough fitting, but I want to get a little better because that nub is gonna get in the way. Right down there. Oh, hey, Mr. Nathan, how's it going? Just to run you through some of the stuff that I'm trying to work on right now. Right down there. Oh, hey, Mr. Nathan, how's it going? Just to run you through some of the stuff that I'm trying to work on right now. The long shot front gun really helps a lot because it sort of separates it because I wanted to flat top it, but this whole area, in my opinion, and it would look kind of boring. Plus, there was a large discrepancy in the width of the front section of the blaster compared to some of the back sections. Like this is much thinner, obviously, than back there. So the long shot front gun does a pretty good job of solving both those issues. Plus, the lines match up pretty neatly. I'm gonna have to do a lot of body work in here to sort of fill that gap. But I just cut up a second one before, so that'll sort of carry me through to the back. For the grip, I'm not quite sure what I want to do because this grip is a little too small. I want something that maybe sticks out a bit further. I was debating about trying to work the other section of the long shot front gun in somewhere towards the front. I think it would look maybe nice somewhere up there, but I still have to play around with that. I'm not sure how that's going to turn out. And then I just got the Praxis stock, so I chopped that down. Then I'm going to start integrating that in. And then I'm debating what I want to do for the back area because it's a little more complicated than I was hoping for. So you got the stock, which I have to pick a height, obviously, for it to sit at. You'll have the top, which will go pretty much, back towards the stock. And then I'm debating about maybe using a section of this or just custom fabricating a back area that obviously I want to hold the battery somewhere back here because there's a lot of space. So I was thinking maybe some kind of transition piece. So I'm not sure how I want to do it. Something like that maybe, but we'll see how it goes. Right now I'm trying to fit up I'm still doing some rough fitting up. So everything's only tacked together really with hot glue right now while I figure out what kind of profile I want to go for. And then once I pretty much have all the pieces that I feel that I need, I'll take it all completely apart. And then we'll start doing it much more neatly. So we'll get out the super glue and the plastic welder. But luckily the long shot front gun isn't tapered. So once I sand off that section, this will pretty much all match up. And then I'm going to have to figure out what I want to do for a jam door on this side of the blaster, probably. Because obviously, once I put this on top and then start filling in this area, the jam door is going to be useless, and I can't really get my finger in there. So I was debating about putting one maybe on the side back here, such that we could still clear jams if we need it, because it's a full auto blaster. And I feel like with HVZ darts, I don't want to take the chance of having no jam door, especially with, that much barrel length. I'm also debating, too, if I really even need the crossfire section, because I feel like if I just, put that there and sort of worked this area a bit more, I can shorten it up a tad, but I'm not sure how I feel about that. I gotta look at it a bit more, but this has definitely been a build where it's less planned out in advance, sort of figuring it out as I go, I guess. But oh well, that happens. It's kind of fun sometimes to do it that way as well. So I think what's up, Neo? How's it going? With the long shot grip at the bottom, debating about that because it would match obviously pretty nicely if that section was down there as well. But I'm not even sure if I need the crossfire, but it might be cool to keep because then I could do one barrel at the top, one barrel at the bottom sort of thing. Might be a cool aesthetic depending on how it's getting there, Neo. A lot of work to do. Like I said, I'm still even just rough fitting it together. Nothing's even permanently glued. So I still have a really long way to go with this blaster, but I'm liking how the profile is turning out. Especially just because I really hate the Rapidstrike in terms of just how it looks. Just personal preference. I know that's probably not a popular opinion, but I'm not a huge fan of the stock aesthetic of the... I just totally blanked out, but still getting used to the whole streaming thing. But we'll see how that ends up turning out. I'm going to switch. I think I'm just going to grind that bit down as opposed to removing the whole section of that, because then we still get a little structural integrity in here when that sits together, even though we're not going to be putting a screw in that port. Let's see, Dremel bits. That's what we need. If I'm not going to intentionally super glue my hands together, but I accidentally did it the other day. So next time I inevitably accidentally super glue my hands together, I'll send you a picture. Bobo. What's up, Matt? How's it going? We need one of those guys. Oh, you want like... Yeah, that's true. That Mr. Nathan brings up a good point. How much is this worth to you? Because I can totally like... If I was gonna do it in advance, I could probably get the stuff to unglue it. But like, you're talking like full palms to like finger, like sort of super glue your hands together, or... I'm gonna move the mic real quick because I have to Dremel for a second. That's true, actually. I just bought... So is anyone else... I don't know if anyone else has had this issue, but I went to go buy the... I usually use the Loctite plastic welder epoxy, but for some reason, all of the hardware stores near me no longer stock it. So I had to try a new brand. I'm not sure how I feel about it because I haven't tried it yet, but I'm going to try the JB Weld version. I'm sure it's probably about the same as the Loctite plastic welder, but I mean, we'll give it a stab. Okay, whole hand saturated, hands pressed together for 45 seconds to 1 minute. I feel like that'd be, well, obviously it's really hard to take off, but that's the point. Super glue. But I'm not sure if hugs will compensate for me gluing my hands together. I'm trying to see, because obviously it doesn't have to be perfect because it's just going to get hot glued together for right now. But I want to get this nub a bit lower. So I'm just going to go over and use my belt sander real quick. There needs to be like a fast mute button for Nerf streaming because I feel like all the power tools we use are super loud, obviously. So it doesn't synergize well with the streaming, but we'll see about adding that. Yeah, that's true. Like, I feel like... Oh, yeah. Well, getting them apart is the interesting part of the stream, I suppose. Like, the actual gluing of your hands together and having them stuck together is like just the introduction. So that's pretty good. It's like an escape the room type of a thing, you know, only with your hands being glued together. Pretty similar. So let's see, we need that piece right around there. Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like it'd be better as a live stream rather than a video because, you know, people can edit videos, but if you live stream, glue your hands together, then it's stuck together. Anyway, I'll see you around, Bobo. Thanks for stopping by. Did you tell me to glue my hands together? Maybe one day. Today is not that day, though. Like I was saying before, I'm kind of annoyed that this extrusion, like right here, I can't just line it up with both of them because that would look kind of cool. But then you'd have screws on both sides of the blaster, which I feel would be more annoying than it's worth. For the stock, I have a Praxis that I just took apart. So it's a pretty comfortable stock, actually. I don't know why more people haven't used it. But I was talking to Nick about it because originally I wanted to use the Firefly stock, but it just doesn't really fit the build, unfortunately. So need more hot glue. Oh. This will not stick. So the Praxis stock is my next challenge. So the top was sort of my first challenge with this build. Now I got to figure out how to integrate this sort of smoothly into there. So like I was saying before, I might see if I can use either, I'm not sure about the orientation, but this line right in here sort of lines up nicely with the Praxis. And I feel like it would just slip right around it, so it would look kind of neat. and that's about the thickness of the top section. So that would be an option, but I have to rip one apart first and really gut this thing to make it fit, which I'm not afraid of because I have 2 of these bottom sections lying around just doing nothing. I don't think I've seen your Rapidstrike, although I don't know if you've posted it or not. If it's anything like the Rhino Fire, then it's probably pretty awesome. Need more glue. So I broke my hot glue gun and still need to get another one. So in the meantime, we will be using this lovely pink one. This is going to be a pain to take apart, but I'm so glad that I learned about the isopropyl alcohol trick for removing hot glue, because that'll at least make it go way smoother. I used to hot glue it together anyway, but I would just try to like scrape it off and it'd be a pain and it'd get everywhere. So at least now it's more manageable. Hot glue sticks. I thought it's going to be pretty cool if it goes with the Rhino Fire blaster that you made. Oh, thanks, Matt. I mean, it's definitely it's probably the most ambitious integration I've taken up. So I'm hoping to stick with it because half the time when I start a project, it ends up not being finished. But I'm feeling this one, even though it's like, it's taken some time to definitely come together. I definitely don't have a plan for certain sections, but we will get there and sort of fix one area at a time as we get going. Thought of using the Hades this time with a bulldog skeleton. That'd be pretty sweet. Okay, that's not quite straight, but it doesn't really matter because, like I said, we're going to take the whole thing apart anyway, but you can sort of see what we're going for with that full top rail. So now we have sort of I'm trying to think of a good way to show this to you guys, but the top rail, which I'm probably just going to get a long Picatinny rail for, will sit about there. Then it drops down a bit and matches up with the front of the Centurion barrel. Then I'm not even sure, like I said, I might drop the crossfire and just make it sort of a bulky front, but I'm kind of like it because the Raven handle is also fairly thin. So I just need some kind of good transition between these areas to sort of match that all up. But that's not too important. I think what's important next is we figure out how we want to match up with the stock. Actually, that ironically fits in pretty well already. Okay, done. Problem solved. Not really, but that does actually fit fairly nicely in there already. But we can't stick it in, or I can trim that down, I suppose, because that's where the pusher motor. Actually, let me see how that shoulders up real quick. I think realistically, this is probably approximately where it'll sit. I'll probably drop it a little lower just so that the rail is at a comfortable height with my face when I'm trying to use it. So I'm just going to leave it in there for now while I try to figure out what's going to happen with this bottom section. So the issue here, I have a few ways of going about it. Yeah, it'll hopefully get some kind of scope. I'm just going to rail the whole top so that way hopefully I can put on whatever scope looks cool. I have a red dot that I just got for my Caliburn, actually, because it's like the only blaster that is sort of accurate enough. But yeah, actually I have an ammo counter, and I was debating about doing side rails for this. I don't want to integrate the ammo counter because I don't really have a place for it right now, but I have room in the shell, I suppose. So the plan right now, oops, it's getting cut off. But right now, planned flat top the top. We're gonna fill in a lot of this stuff up here. Do a lot of body work to sort of make that all match up. Not sure what I'm gonna do about this particular area. Probably just gonna drag that line down to here. And then we'll put LEDs in this one because we have plenty of room for that. I was debating about doing something else like ELY or something funky, but I'm not sure if I'm gonna have room for that, to be honest. Or where I could even fit that into the build. But it's definitely taking shape. So plans for the back now, I suppose. I'm getting further than I thought, actually. I didn't think that that would sit super well. But it kind of does. I need to figure out something too, a little bit of a better transition for this back piece, because right now it just kind of looks like it's slapped on there. Although I guess that also depends on what I do for down here too. We'll play into it. He's going to name his project Mr. Nathan. Indeed. So let's figure out what we want to do, I guess, is the next plan. So I guess we have a few options here. I could use this section, which I don't mind cutting up even just to try it out, because I have two of them, like I mentioned. So even if I mess one up, but I figure out something that kind of works, then I'm fine with that. Or I can find a new blaster, option 2, to sort of fill this gap. Or I guess option 3, I could just cut like a polycarbonate sheet, but then that looks kind of flat. So I still think naming the blaster Mr. Nathan would be pretty funny. So I'm not sure how I feel about it. That's pretty square. I feel like the whole back then. So that like lines up at the bottom of the mag well. Right, I'll obviously have to trim a little bit of this. Let's grab a mag actually to see how this fits. So probably, I don't have any worker 22s on me because I broke mine. So we got that. What's up, RZ? So we got that sort of going on. Then I guess you could put this either way, but it'd probably make more sense to have the blocky end meet up with the Raven, perhaps stick over a little bit. And then where this dip goes, let's try to line that up with the stock. That's kind of blocky though. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Oh, thanks, RZ. Nice. Is there anything wrong with the printer, or you just got it for free because someone upgraded or something? Let's see. I do like the idea of integrating the grip section sort of at the bottom too, and working that into the blaster, because I think that looks pretty cool. With the, you got the little slots up there, like the larger ones, and then you got some small ones here. So when LEDs go in it, it'll look pretty sweet. But nice. Actually, in my townhouse for school, I used to have my 3D printer in the basement, which was all fun. Got a bunch of water in the basement one time, but luckily I had it on a table, so it worked out okay. And it survived. Really not sure what, I'm kind of at a loss for what I want to do with this back section. It's a bit troubling. Let's see. Oh, what kind of printer was it too? That's pretty cool though that you just got it for free. Not sure how I feel about that. Because then that's like basically just a huge block right in the back. It's not super appealing. But then again, if I do a polycarbonate sheet, it's also going to be blocky. So there's really no way around it being blocky without... I guess you could do the sheet. Or even if I did something like that, I could also 3D... I could, like, once I did the bodywork, we could spruce it up with some 3D printed accessories or something. You know, the more I work on this build, I think the more complex it gets. I thought it'd get easier because it was supposed to be just a minimized Rapidstrike, but here we are. How many blasters later? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If you count the Firefly I killed and didn't use, we're up to 8 blasters so far as our body count. Kind of want to hollow this out, but that's a lot of dremeling. Yeah, no, I feel like the more I work on this, the more complex it gets. So I think to help me, let's visualize this out right now, right? So we got tape. Oh, I have plenty of blasters we can kill for this. I'm in too deep in this blaster, or not too deep. I'm in just deep enough on this blaster already that I would be willing to kill several other blasters just to finish it. So to sort of see what we have going on here, right? We're just going to cover that area and pretend it doesn't exist because now it's flat. And we did body work and it looks great. That's fairly blocky. So I'm debating if I want to keep it, because if I use this bottom section, it's also going to be pretty blocky, and it's going to be about the same thickness as that. So it'll be like 1 block from there to there. Whereas if I did something like a polycarbonate sheet, I could sort of taper it, or that's not the right word, but I can step it down a notch to where it goes down maybe about a 1/4 of an inch or so. Then you have a second sort of layer that goes from like maybe about the thickness of here, right, all the way around back into the stock. But then I just have to figure out how I want to end the sheet and transition into the stock. I'll use the diagonal dip part of the long shot front gun from the bottom of the magwell to the intersection. Well, that could work. That could work, I suppose. I ideally would like it to go about to here, though, because then, so I'll print an extended mag release, and that'll probably go to about here. Then I could always raise this up a tad as well, but I would like it to go approximately from the Raven over the Rapidstrike and then into the stock to sort of tie that area together. Did you eat just the paper piece or the other piece too? But I kind of like how it would go back up and then sort of into the stock. Decisions. Any particular article? Like, Yeah, that's what I'm trying to think of, how I want to transition from this stock to this. I might make it a little longer and then see if I can find something to sort of dip down and be more the thickness of stock. Because even it looks okay from like, from this perspective, but when you get to the top, there's a fairly significant difference in width. So I got to figure out, I'm okay with trimming this back if it involves working into there. The real limiting factor with this area is really going to be the pusher back for the Rapidstrike. It's going to be hard to show on camera, but the body of the Rapidstrike really, I think, is my roadblock into this transition. So that's sort of my issue right now, but I'm dealing, that's how this blaster is basically being built, is one issue at a time. So the front gun was integrated, like I said, because there was a weird, I liked this area, but there was a weird gap in thickness from like here to here, especially because of the Rapidstrike. So although, I mean, this piece isn't really necessary right now, I'm kind of happy with how that lines up. So I want to keep that as my flat top, but then towards the back, I'm going to start needing to taper down, which is the issue. Keep the angle of the handle from the Raven. Yeah. So, ruler. I don't know where my ruler went, but we'll take a popsicle stick. That would cut sort of into the magwell. Trying to think. Yeah, tape works too. So anyway, cuts right about into the halfway point of the. Oh, was it a Nerf article or was it a? I'm not really following you guys, to be honest. I haven't read Reddit recently. So now I might have to, probably not during this stream, but I'm gonna have to take a look and see what kinds of sections I could use to sort of taper it from the thickness of that down to this size, which is going to be tricky, to be honest, because I might have to extend it a hair and then do some kind of transition. But it's really tricky. Should have started trimming earlier, to be honest, because I was working on the top section of the long shot. Now I'm just kind of at an impasse of what to do. So it's probably pretty boring, so I apologize for that, but I'm just kind of thinking out loud, to be honest. What's up? How's it going? You know, to be honest, I'm going to have to think about this one a bit more now that I've sort of got the top more or less figured out. You know, in terms of profile, not so much in terms of work. There's going to be a butt ton of sanding that has to go into this still. So maybe we'll put this to the side for a second and work on a different project, just to sort of, while we think about it, so that way we're not staring at nothing for a while. Maybe we'll move to a more completed project. So where we are, we haven't worked on this guy in a while, but sort of where we're at, let's clean up some of the plastic dust. We're mostly done with the corrective bodywork on this guy. So one of the issues I ran into was I primed it just to sort of see where we're at, so I can mark it up and see what areas need a little more sanding and tweaking. So we need to do there, a little bit right here. Then one of the issues we're going to have is I lost a lot of detail between the various stages of bodywork on these little ribs. So I think I'm just going to remove them completely and make that whole section flat, because we're kind of lost too much detail and it's probably not worth it to bring it back. Yeah, sure thing. Let's see. Could use a little more right in there. That area needs a little work. This area has a little tiny crack. Maybe a little more there. A little sanding there. Some more sanding in there. Then LEDs aren't too bad. Once you basically how I do it is I just wire them all in parallel, and then there's a lot of different ways you could figure out what kind of resistor you need, but I completely ignore all that and just use a voltage regulator. And I have a few. Actually, I can pull one out real quick there in my organizer thing. So instead of worrying about, well, you know, like what resistor to use and like all that stuff, I basically, you know, and soldering a bunch of resistors to LEDs and stuff, I use a board that's about that big, if you can kind of see in the wrapping. And basically, so like for my LEDs, right, if you want to like use a 9-volt battery to power a bunch of 3-volt LEDs. Wait, let me get something to draw with. Timeout. So we got our 9 volts. Positive, negative side. So that obviously can't power or it'll overvolt the 3-volt LEDs and it'll burn them out. So what you can do, and how I would recommend wiring your LEDs, get all your LEDs and you basically make a chain, right? So you have the positive leg of the LED, which is a little longer. Wire them such that all the positives are in a row. Your blaster and point the LEDs where you want them. And then obviously these are usually, the LEDs are like whatever between like 3 volts and 5 volts, depending on which ones you buy and stuff like that. But anyway, the 9-volt battery is obviously not good for that. So what some people do is there's calculators online, you could figure it out, but you can basically solder a resistor to all the LEDs to drop the voltage enough such that the 9-volt won't burn out the smaller volt LEDs. But I just use a board, so I use the voltage regulator, and then there's a little screw on it, and you can adjust it for sort of what you want your output voltage to be. And then once you set that, you don't really have to do anything. So that little board will take the 9 volts and turn it into 3 volts, and then your 3 volts goes through and touches all the LEDs. And then I just realized that that's backwards for you guys, so that probably doesn't make any sense. So rip. But if you followed along with the explanation, hopefully that makes a little sense. I mean, I can make a video about it too if that would help. I'm not sure when the next build I'll probably, this guy has LED strips I'm hoping to use. So that's a bad example. But no, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure someone's made a video about it. I'd have to look at it, but I can make like a video on it, or like how I do it, because it's a little different than how other people do it. Like I said, most people do the resistor method, whereas I'm lazy and just buy it. Also, the cool thing about the regulator is you can adjust the brightness. So for my blue and white stripe that I did, you can actually tweak how bright you want it to be. So like when I was at FoamCon, I tweaked it down a bit, sort of to make it more of a subtle glow. But then during the night missions, I like cranked it up. Yeah, I mean, I'm just lazy, so I looked up how to. I figured out that I'm sure other people have done it before. I'm not the first one to use it. The most common method that I've seen people use is the resistor method. So that's sort of how I've gone about doing it. This is a little low in here. It's kind of hard to see because it's all gray. But part of the reason why was just to sort of see where I need to clean up. Sort of what's good and what's bad, basically. Because clean up this edge. But yeah, the resistor, I mean, both work, but like I said, I'm just a fan of doing it the other way. Actually, I'm going to go the lazy route with this one too. I'm just going to use an LED strip that I bought off Amazon colors. Originally, I wanted to use a bunch of NeoPixels, but I was playing around with them, and I did figure out how to code it. But the issue is going to be it's going to take me 5 years to solder the amount of NeoPixels that I need, because it's a little like 10 millimeter diameter disc that you have to solder like 6 wires onto. So it's quantities, but I need a lot. Also, the amp draw for that is greater than the amp draw you would get from the Arduino. So I would need to have a separate voltage source or some kind of way to regulate a different voltage source for the LEDs. So I need 3 different sources, which would kind of be a pain in the butt. I'm sure I can do the Arduino and the LEDs from one, but it's just gets more and more complicated. So I figured I'd take the easy way out and just use an LED strip. Let's see, we need to touch up this back area a bit. Top is fine. Front, that area could probably be sanded a bit more. I mean, everything could probably be sanded a bit more, but that's just the nature of this. I remember when the last time before NWAR, I was trying to finish this blaster because I wanted it to be my primary because it was the year before. But I'd figured I'd not stress myself out about it. Be careful with the 100 grit too, because I'll start scratching up something that's gonna leave a gouge. Actually, let me take this, break it. I have to reinforce the joint a little bit because that's what caused the hairline crack, excuse me, in the first place. That were, you know, the whole reason we took the blaster apart and started sanding it and repainting it and all that jazz was to fix some of the little issues. So got to reinforce some of that a bit more, but we can do that later. At the same time, you know, don't want to try to break it too much more. So like I was saying before, in case anyone wasn't here, I sort of lost the details within this ridge to the various multiple times I've done body. So I'm just going to remove it and make it flat because I don't think it's salvageable. It's not a big deal either. I just got to remember to keep it in frame too. I'm not used to streaming, to be honest. It's unfortunate too, I can't really use a file for a lot of this area touch-ups because it's too big. And I guess I could use a tiny file, but the shit would really make it difficult. I'm really hesitating to use Dremels towards the end because they remove so much material. But I think that's probably the better way to do this area. So, is there a wait? I wonder. Okay, so I just realized that you can indeed mute the microphone, so I'm going to start doing that when I Dremel real quick, just to make it easier. Yeah, that's the thing I liked about the regulator is that it's adjustable. But then that's also bad because you can potentially accidentally burn out your whole LED circuit if you adjust it too quickly and you overvolt it. But I mean, that's the risk you run. Yeah, I can send that to you later. Yep. So let's see. This is like 100 grit sandpaper, so it's pretty coarse. But I think it still needs a little more before we can go down to a finer grit. I didn't realize we've been streaming for about an hour already. That's feels like it. Not sure how long I'm going to continue working on this, but we'll see. Probably break it up. When I figure out what I want to do with the Rapidstrike, I'll probably stream more of that just because that build is pretty complex. I mean, since I'm already set up and stuff, I might as well keep working while I'm in the mood for it. It's not every day if you feel like sanding for hours. So, like I said, I probably won't, do hours at a time right now, but we'll keep going for a little bit. Probably need epoxy sculpt just to build that up because I want to keep that lip right there. Trying to see. It could probably be a bit more smooth. So basically, instead of having all these little ridges, it'll just be a flat bar. Goes from there to there. And I can paint that a different color, sort of give it a bit of contrast. It's basically going to get the same paint job as the original one, with the pink, black, and a little bit of white detailing just to make it pop. But full internal let's see. I'm out of toothpicks, so I will leave that area alone for now. That area needs to be built up. If anyone has any questions, feel free to jump in. Like I said, I'm still getting used to the whole live streaming thing, so it's incredibly weird to me talking to myself for hours at a time. But it's what the kids are into, I suppose. Plus, I mean, it's good motivation to actually work on the blasters. Needs to be built up. I'm good with that. The inside of the shell is like super fugly now. Like I said, I gotta reinforce some of these areas. Originally, the stripe was a little bit more forward. However, that led to some issues. I have a DRS cage set aside for this guy. So this blaster I'm hoping to finish relatively soon, in the next few weeks or so. Just because, like I said, most of the bodywork's done already. I'm not sure what I'm going to do about the stock. I'm not sure what I'm going to do about the stock. Because I had the filled worker stock, but it's nice. So I'll probably use that temporarily, and then I guess long term, I was working on a 3D model. I'm going to work on that recently, but maybe I'll make one that's in the same sort of. So this guy has like the slots and the fake bolts to match the slots and fake bolts on the blaster. So maybe I'll make a stock to sort of also go along with that. But for right now, I guess I'll just use this, not attached to the blaster, so it's no problem later. I'm gonna mute myself again real quick while I use the Dremel. Okay, so now we can sand that down a bit, and we will be fairly good to go. Like I said, I gotta do some epoxy sculpt work, so I'll probably not do that right now. Relatively flat angle. It's like our ghetto file right now. Yeah, thank you, Nathan, for popping by. I'll have to the stock section. I'm going to come up with some ideas around it. But thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it. Soon myself, because I've been working on stuff for a little while now, streaming. So, is there anything before we sort of wrap up in the near future? This one I mod. So I log videos that he does. Most people, myself included, to film the amount of details that he films. So always appreciate that. Whew. Try the popsicle stick again. Oh well. I'll work on that more in the future, probably. So we're getting there. Anyway, guys, I think after I finish up this ridge area, I'm going to start wrapping up. So if there's any final questions, now is the time to ask, I suppose. As we're pretty much going to wrap up. I think we got to... pretty much good. I always got to remember to keep it on camera, but I think I'm going to wrap it up, guys. So I thank you for watching. I appreciate it. I'm going to hopefully continue Strike once I get over some modders block. Thanks for sticking with me throughout the duration of this. Appreciate it. And I will see you guys around. Bye.